listed as quarterback one on, of course, every team's got to put out these dopey unofficial depth charts before their preseason games. Wilson listed as one, but Fields is going to start the preseason opener against the Texans.
I still think they're going to start Wilson, but, if they start Fields, so be it. Like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I know this. I think they're both talented.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're a legit 5 deep at receiver. 7 bona fide pass targets deal. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Say the under has the correct juice to the 6.5 win total for the New York Giants. It's a losing season. It's a bad season in the greater New York area. Is Brian Daboll and is Joe Shane back next year?
As a Giants fan, what are you looking forward to? Absolutely nothing. You're hoping like the Yankees make a long enough run so you can forget about the Giants.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship.
The golf has been mesmerizing.
They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes! Are you ready?
Let's go!
That's what champions do.
Welcome into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. I'm Kasey Hudson, and I am so psyched to be with you sports fans because we've got a slate ahead, not to mention the list of guests that we have joining us to give us their expertise and their analysis, and obviously most important, their best bets to run through the MLB, the WNBA. We've got golf. We've got what I'm very excited about, which is the U.S. Open getting ready to be underway in New York City at one of the best tournaments of the year. Obviously, more NFL to get to, and college football is here. This is not a foreseen thing that we were talking about any longer. It is finally happening. So I can't wait to talk with Coach James, as you all know, SportsGrid's very own. One of my dear friends, Kate Constable, a great mind when it comes to WNBA and so much more. Maybe I'll get where she's leaning in the college football world. We're also going to talk to Mark Zinno as well as Brady Cannon and so many other guests. So you don't want to go anywhere. You want to stay with us right here on SportsGrid TV. Now, of course, first and foremost, to deliver some Wednesday winners, we've got to get into the games that have taken place in the MLB so far. Now, of course, there's a lot of conversation around the Oilers as well as the Mets and who's coming out on top in this series. And it's the Oilers that tried so hard, but the Mets come out on top, winning 4-3 earlier today. But you got to give some love to Austin Slater. He tried so hard to put the Oilers back in it with a outstanding performance, 2 RBIs, 1 home run, and a number of other great things that he did throughout the game, but it just was not enough versus the Mets. It's Francisco Lindor that just continues to stay hot for the Mets team. He also picks up a home run for the team, and it's those final innings that really kind of put these teams back in it. So when you're looking at those live lines, the Mets are one of those teams that start getting hot as things progress through. Although, if you guys heard over the weekend, I'm obviously a bigger fan of those first 5 inning bets, which of course I have a few of them for you tonight. Now, one of the other games that came and went throughout the day, it's going to be the Red Sox versus the Astros. Red Sox winning this matchup 4-1 in the series. And Jarren Duran, double run hit. He's somebody who helped make a big case for this. Tristan Casas comes through with an RBI and a number of things. And then when you're looking at the mound, Chris Wall, 4 strikeouts, which definitely helped the Red Sox pull through. Then on the Astros side, even though they only came up with 1 point in this matchup, you got Alex Bregman with a home run and an RBI to try to give them something going. Verlander, though, with 6 strikeouts, but it was not enough to hold off the Red Sox and their hot offense today. One of those games that a number of people mentioned they were not going to look at the over total for, and you can imagine why, only coming out on top 4-1. One of the other games that wrapped up, Pirates losing streak, well, it didn't just now snap, but the losing streak kind of comes back into flow. Them losing to the Texas Rangers 1-0, so nothing too devastating, but when it comes to the Rangers side, Corey Seager having himself a great game, Joe Ham having himself a great game, but it's going to be Henny on the mound with 8 strikeouts. Now, this guy has been kind of in action a lot, helping out here for the Rangers. I've known a couple of guys to probably lean on his strikeout props, and right now, if those strikeout props ever come in, sitting around that 5.5 total, even 6.5, he's done well at probably delivering the over on that, so something to keep in mind as his name rolls through for him getting the tap on the hill. Another game with the final in the books, the Chicago White Sox beating the San Francisco Giants 6-2, and what a roll these guys were on. No home runs pulling them through in this market, but Nicky Lopez 4 times at bat, 1 run, 1 hit. Then you got Robert Jr., another guy picking up 2 runs, 2 hits, and the list goes on and on. Giants not really having a chance to fight in this one whatsoever. So those are our MLB games that have already rolled through. But we have a long slate ahead and a number of games that I'm feeling really good about when it comes to delivering some Wednesday winners. Some of the top games, of course, you're looking at the Diamondbacks versus the Marlins. Now, of course, the Marlins have been one of those teams that have just kind of been tough to watch, and we've said it a number of times here on SportsGrid TV. This is one of those teams that are just kind of giving up a lot of runs, and then you've got this fire-hot Diamondbacks offense, a Diamondbacks offense that was kind of slowed down and minimized by my Tampa Bay by my Tampa Bay Rays. But it's okay because the Diamondbacks remain one of the most dangerous teams, averaging 5.28 runs per game, and they're projected to have Munoz on the hill for Miami. So going against a guy who's given up 5 runs in 3.1 innings, one of the top things that came to mind with this Diamondbacks Marlins matchup is where does the total lie and how hard can I slam it over? The total is only sitting at 8. So I'm looking at an over 8 total at -122 for this matchup. Munoz is also a guy who's 2-7 in 78 innings and hasn't faced the Diamondbacks yet. So you're going up against a team that is fire hot right now. You're not really, you don't really know how to gauge their performance quite yet, and you're kind of shaky when you're on the mound. I think that you can really rack up, or in terms of that over total, I think that can be an easy over. Something else that stands out to me if you're not really leaning towards totals in this game. I said it earlier, I like first 5 innings. Now, sometimes that first inning or those first 2 innings can be really slow and drag on. But when you have a Diamondbacks offense like this, I cannot imagine the first 5 innings not being something that they take full control over. Not to mention is that first 5 innings money line sits at -158. So those are my 2 within this one, knowing that Munoz is on the mound. I think that they can take advantage of this point, and I think that they can get back into escalating their fire hot performance. And who would I be if I didn't have some sort of player prop in the mix? It's going to be Marlins Xavier Edwards to record an RBI. Even though I said that the Marlins like to give up a lot of runs, it doesn't mean that I have no faith in what they'll do or that none of their players can produce. Edwards has been a guy who's been in the mix in almost every game over the last, I want to say, 7 to 10 games. So why not go in on an RBI prop and hopefully get lucky there? 15 RBIs in the last 45 games, and like I mentioned, playing very well as of late. Jumping down the slate, Twins and Padres. I feel like the Twins aren't being really talked about enough. I don't think that there's enough notation around some of their better games over the last month, but that could be a conversation for another day. Definitely not a conversation when you're going against the Padres, especially when you lose to the Padres previously. But the Padres came in hot, getting a 3-run homer in the 8th, securing last night's win. How do you compete against that, right? Yet the Twins sit second in the AL Central and are 8th in the league for runs per game. This is another game where you might want to consider gauging that total. Total's only sitting at 8.5 in this matchup. So while the Padres have surrendered 135 home runs and 4.25 runs per game. So when you're looking at those run per game numbers and this total sitting at 8.5, I thought it's something that would have come in a tad bit higher, and it didn't. So Am I going to steer clear of the first 5 innings here? Of course not. Twins' first 5 innings run line is where I'm going to lean with this one. It's just at over half, minus 130, something I think they can work out. As for my prop love, Royce Lewis to record an RBI. You'll probably hear a lot of RBI stuff for this Wednesday winning slate, in my opinion, but all is well there. Continuing to roll through, and then, of course, as we have some of our guests pop in, they'll give us their MLB card, best bets, and expertise on all of the games rolling through this Wednesday night. Rockies versus Nationals. Now, you got righty Tanner Gordon, who will make his 7th start, but he is still looking for his first win. Now, doesn't this scream for an opportunity to probably cash in on some bets? I would hope so. He's got a whopping ERA right now of a 7.0 also. Gordon didn't stay long on the mound versus the Diamondbacks. He got pulled pretty early there, so that might make you want to look at some under totals or under props when it comes to Tanner Gordon specifically. But again, something that we will talk with our MLB minds and super brains about. Guardians versus Yankees. This Yankees run line did me in this past weekend. So I might be harboring some feelings there. I might steer clear of the Yankees run line for a minute. Honestly, between the performance that Judge and Soto put up the other night, having a hell of a game, grabbing a home run apiece, I would say that you could probably just go with a prop on the other end here. Jose Ramirez to record 2 total bases, 2+ total bases, and feel good about that. But we definitely have a lot more props, a lot more run lines, a lot more innings and information to break down with this MLB slate. So stay with us here on SportsGrid TV.
Hello everybody from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyers Brendan Steele. This is his 2nd shot at the par 5 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This is his 3rd at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a 2nd straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Neiman for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his 2nd into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first. An 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. I'm Kasey Hudson, and we just ran through the MLB slate, but we have some WNBA on the docket tonight, which means we have to bring in the one and only coach, or James Young, as you may know him, Doesn't matter. We just need his expertise. We need his best bets. We need his analysis. We need all the goods from Coach James. But how you doing? You're working a girls' camp, so you're educating more than the norm on the great things of basketball. But how's everything going?
It's going good. 3 days of camp in. It's been a great thing. A lot of people know I do a lot of private training with my background in coaching. So, you know what, Kasey, no different than doing this. I try to use my basketball background to kind of give back. And hopefully for us, or the listening audience, I can give some people some winners tonight.
I think that you will. I think that the Wednesday winning theme is going to roll through, and you're actually going to make it that much hotter. So let's start with this Mercury.
Man, the power of positivity. I feel good now. Let's go, Kasey.
It works. It works. I know that it works. And with the power of positivity, Mercury versus the Dream. The Dream have kind of been a dream team. They've rolled in with a few upsets as of late, but you have a Mercury team that is really fighting to stay in the mix here. What stood out to me is their ability to kind of hold teams to about a 36% shooting percentage, which should tell you some things. But what stands out to you in this matchup?
Honestly, Kasey, I'm going with the underdog here. You're looking at an Atlanta Dream team that has covered their last 4 straight games, and it hasn't been slouches. I think it's been Seattle, Minnesota, and Connecticut in that group, including getting a win at home versus Connecticut as an underdog. I'd like them over the weekend. So to me, I look at that plus 2.5. I'm going to take the points here with the Atlanta Dream. Folks, simply put, I know she sometimes is inconsistent scoring, but Ryan Howard, Kasey, is that good. And she allows the team to kind of settle into their roles. You know, obviously with Tina Charles, with Parker. Like, they got girls and ladies that can ball, but when you have your main player back, it settles it. Remember, they also beat the Las Vegas Aces early on in the year. Give me Atlanta Dream plus 2.5. Sprinkle on the money line. I think they pull another upset tonight.
I love that because they were major underdogs by like 8 versus the Sun. But what stands out to me too, Coach, which you could probably give a better angle on, is they might not be a top 5 scoring team in this league, but aren't they one of the top teams when it comes to rebounding? And how much has that played into their game or success or upsets?
I think it plays a lot into their game, folks. And if you look at it, they have one of the best rebounders in the history of this league. And Tina Charles, prior to Christ King High School in New York City, I've seen that girl do damage to people for a long time. So the wily vet does a really good job of controlling the board. So I'm not shocked. This is a team that can muck it up. Listen, sometimes they get a little bit, they mess up a little bit when it comes down to their defense. But when they're locked in, they're pretty good. And I think that's something that people need to start looking at, is how teams play, particularly when they have their entire roster. So you're right. This team is a really good team when it comes to rebounding the ball. They're 4th in the WNBA in rebounding at about 35.6 rebounds per game. Think about a 40-minute game. You get more than like 0.75 rebounds, or you get 0.8, 0.9. That's really good. So they do a good job of controlling the board. So I look at them and their ability to control the boards, and that is the reason why they can keep games, honestly, close to the vest. So that's something that you want to look at when it comes down to it. They give up 35 rebounds per game, so they have a rebounding advantage. I do like that, and I think it's a reason why they're going to be in the mix. They'll be able to control Brittany Griner down low.
Big fan of that. Does this lean towards a player prop bet by any chance? Because you mentioned Tina Charles, and I'm seeing a few things here. 10-plus rebounds at plus money of 104 or 12-plus at plus money of 255. Is that something that would be an attractive offer, knowing what they can produce in the rebound column?
Yeah, I think you should be looking right at Tina Charles because of her ability to rebound. Her points props at 15.5. So if you want to go something like you can combine them, points plus rebounds, you want to go ahead and take a look at that with Tina Charles. If you want to just go Tina Charles double-double at even money, that's something that could be enticing here because Tina Charles does rebound the ball. And although Brittany Griner is 6'8", she's not the most dominating rebounder. Think about this. At 6'8", Brittany Griner is 5.5 to 1 to get a double-double, right? Tina Charles is at even money. That tells you the rebounding advantage they think they have inside. And if they can neutralize BG, I think Tina Charles could be the one that does it.
Now, slightly under a minute, Coach, we've got this Lynx Aces showdown. Lynx appear to kind of have the edge here. They do pick up about 1.5 points more on the road, but then you have an Aces team kind of looking to get back in the consistency column. What's your edge here?
I'm going to go with the Aces minus the points. I just think this team needs to get going. I've talked about it. It's really the split of Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum shooting the ball, particularly from three, and then obviously Chelsea Gray playing better. When you talk about props here, I'm going to go to Asia Wilson to go over 24.5 points, 28-29. She's gone over this in 6 out of the last 8 games. Kayla McBride under. She's getting 16 points a game, but she's gone the last 2. Diamond Miller is back. That's going to take away some of it. McBride, not a strong defender. Go ahead and look McBride under 14.5 points.
See, the expertise of the one and only Coach James Young. Coach, thank you so much for joining me here on Sports Grid. Stick around because we have a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hello everybody from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyers Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This is his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Niemann for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first. An 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Russell Wilson listed as quarterback 1 on, of course, every team's got to put out these dopey unofficial depth charts before their preseason games. Wilson listed as 1, but Fields is going to start the preseason opener against the Texans.
I still think they're going to start Wilson, but, if they start Fields, so be it. Like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I know this. I think they're both talented.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
What is the ceiling for this kid? Now that he's got the money, and we saw something click with him, what is the ceiling for a Jordan Love in this Green Bay team?
Deepest pass target group in the National Football League. 2 stud tight ends. They're a legit 5 deep at receiver. 7 bona fide pass targets deal. Come on, man. This guy could be a stud. Top 5 quarterback.
Game time decisions, only on
You are watching Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. I'm Kasey Hudson, rolling you through this 6 to 8 p.m. hour, and we just had Coach on to break down the WNBA slate and give some great insight on not only the matchups, but player prop bets, a number of girls that you need to look out for. Tina Charles, Kelsey Plum. I had her for 4+ in the assist column, and we are going to get more information on that when we have Kate Constable down the stretch here. But it's time to talk some NFL preseason. We are in the finale stages before we get to the real deal in week 1, which is oh so close. And starting us out is going to be this Colts-Bengals preseason matchup. Now, both teams did get the nod for their starters to go in, and we're looking at that first half as a whole for the starters to be active. Colts side of the ball, one of the guys to keep an eye on is going to be the fact that DeForest Buckner should be in. And look, who doesn't want to see this guy roll out in that 4-3 format? But the focus for the Colts, or not for the Colts, the focus for the Bengals is going to be gauging what this offensive line can do. We have seen Joe Burrow in slight action in the preseason, and there are high expectations and weights on his shoulder if he can stay healthy as to how he will produce and what totals he will hit, especially in that passing yards conversation. So how is this going to help Joe Burrow to stay healthy? This offensive line is going to be heavily evaluated in this specific matchup. Now, after a potential season-ending injury to Deontay Smith, they have to work through some movement and see how the O-line upholds. But he has some weapons to throw to, obviously, but another guy with a contract conversation that could impact his time when he joins the team or when he starts working out with the team again, and it's going to be Jamar Chase. We don't know if we're going to see him in this pregame matchup. Obviously, it is still preseason, no alarms going off here, but if you've got the Colts starters in the first half versus the Bengals starters minus Chase, you might want to be looking at a Colts money line here. Also because, as I mentioned, Bengals are going to be evaluating certain depth in certain positions, and they have some other things to focus on. Preseason for a lot of teams is not where you pull off wins, but it's where you secure your roster, obviously. So that's where I was leaning with that one, as I've learned the hard way in a few games. Obviously, check out the under total if this is something that you are looking to bet on. For your next game down the slate, Bears versus Chiefs. I get it. It's just preseason, but this is probably one of those games that are going to be worth watching because we've seen exciting preseason games out of the Bears and we've seen exciting preseason games out of the Chiefs. You guys know I have a bone to pick with the Chiefs, but I will give credit where credit is due. And everybody wants to talk about the behind-the-back passes of Patrick Mahomes and company. That's fine. They've always been known as a team that can deliver the backyard football skills and spectacular, and I'll never take that away from them. But you're looking at another game where starters are probably going to at least be in for that first quarter, and this is going to be something to evaluate because you've got Caleb Williams, who has done well at engaging the excitement of Chicago, delivering in the preseason and the times that he has had snaps, but we are starting to see a little bit more depth, something that the Bears have kind of been undervalued conversation-wise is how well their run-stop defense was actually last season and how much they can uphold that this coming season. So I think this is one of those games that are going to be a lot more exciting. The 32.5 total for your starters being in for maybe a whole first half of preseason football feels a little low to me. Xavier Worthy is somebody who has to continue to build that bromance with Patrick Mahomes and add to the depth of that room. And if you look at the prototype of Xavier Worthy, he's somebody that can give Patrick Mahomes back his Tyreek Hill routes, ability, and connection. He's a little taller, he's a little skinnier, but he runs a little bit faster coming in at a 4.21, so something to keep in mind. So I think I'm going to go with the over total in the preseason on that game. Jaguars versus Falcons. Jaguars to be running their starters in this preseason game. Falcons not to be doing so. But the depth for the Falcons defense, this reformation of the Falcons, that's where you would kind of be tracking this. You got a very pass-heavy team for the Jaguars, so the secondary is going to be put to the test for the Falcons. Again, it's going to be the backups, so nothing to go too crazy with here. Probably look at the under total and Jags to cover the spread on the 7 there before getting into the rest of the games this weekend. But we'll keep up with the NFL preseason slate because the finale is going to produce more starters. It's going to produce more answers, and we're going to know what we're looking at come week 1 in the NFL. And if there's one thing to keep a note on when you're looking for exciting games this weekend, it's the fact that Dolphins head coach is starting to get his Miami on. The memes are memeing. He is completely transformed into a South Florida guy. So don't go anywhere because we have more NFL preseason. We've got to get into the MLB slate from an expertise mind. So Adam Kaufman gets ready to join the show. Got a chance to hang with him this past weekend. Then we've got Kate Constable coming up. So we've got a lot of great guests, a lot of great information. You want to stick with us here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. Quick break, and we'll catch you guys on the other side.
Hello, everybody, from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyer's Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5, 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This was his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Niemann for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first, an 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. And as promised, we're going to get an expertise opinion on the MLB slate tonight. Some Wednesday winners, and with the one and only Adam Kaufman is the only way we'll deliver those Wednesday winners. I gave my opinion, Adam. I think I'm on to something with some of these games, but it's going to be you that helps us get the job done. But it looks like you survived the fantasy football Sunday Bonanza. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
right?
we had fun. The kids were after it, drafting their teams. You know, now it's into the, you know how it goes. Like you try and come up with a creative team name or whatever it is. And so my oldest, the 12-year-old, he drafted Sam Laporta. So I think his team name is going to be Laporta Potty, something along those lines. I mean, this, you know, you try and get creative with these things. And I saw that one on Twitter somewhere. So I gave him that idea. I did not come up with that on my own for anyone who thinks it's really good. And if you think it's bad, you can blame somebody else too. Listen, I know we're going to get into tonight's baseball games, but I got to scratch an itch just real quick with the game that happened earlier today. And I'm sort of beating myself up just a little bit, but I'm also upset. I'm also a little upset about just variants of baseball. No, it's where I went in support of the San Francisco Giants money line of all things against the Chicago White Sox, a heavily juiced money line that was like minus 225, 240, whatever it was. I had them in multiple parlays. I even had them on the run line in one spot. Played it straight with all the juice, just thinking, oh, it's a good opportunity to get a decent enough return if I invest enough in it. You know, you would think with Logan Webb on the mound opposite a Garrett Crochet who, for whatever freaking reason, they don't let stay in games anymore. He can't go more than 3-4 innings since the All-Star break. I played the over on his strikeouts at 5.5. He was absolutely cruising, had 4 through 4. They pull him out. He threw 57 pitches, so great. Thanks for coming. I'm going to stop making that mistake. But as far as the Giants go, I need to tell myself, I guess as a parlay piece, fine. Like, it is what it is, and the variance of baseball or whatever other sport is going to get you every once in a while. But when it comes to playing these heavily juiced lines straight, no more, Kasey. No more. I'm done. Because this stupid team, they get a gem out of Logan Webb. He goes 8 strong innings. It's a 2-2 game. After Crochet comes out again, entering the 5th, for whatever reason, a potent lineup, a good, solid Giants team can't do anything against the bullpen, a crap bullpen for the White Sox, nothing. They can't do anything, completely blank the rest of the way. And of course, as soon as Webb comes out and the Giants turn things over to their pen, erupts. 4 runs in the 9th inning, they lose 6-2. Like, I don't know if, I know you build me as an expert or whatever. I don't know if people should be listening to my plays for tonight, because this one has rubbed me the wrong way in so many different ways. I'm upset. You can tell I'm a little bothered.
I will still deem you an expertise, because I feel like of all teams, the team to deliver despair out of nowhere is the White Sox. So like maybe that's where I'll still give you some cushion as an expertise. Outside of that, I mean, I thought the parlay hangover from this weekend would have had you playing a little precautionary, but you know,
I'm not a conservative.
You gotta risk it to
person,
get the
Kasey.
biscuit.
No, yeah, you gotta. It's like riding a bike, or you fall off a horse or whatever the cliche. You gotta hop right back on, like Michael Caine said in Batman Begins. What happens when we fall? We get back up again, or whatever exactly he said. I mean, this is what we do. So you lose a parlay, you chase another parlay. I realize parlays are for suckers. I understand the money is generally in straight bets, but listen, we like to chase the carrot.
You know what? It wouldn't be a summertime fun if you don't have a parlay hangover, if I could say this correctly. Clearly, I don't have many parlay hangovers because I stick to the simple. But maybe we can get you back on track. Maybe
Please.
Today is your day. It's Wednesday. It's midweek. You got plenty of time to get tread back on the tires. Starting with maybe this Diamondbacks versus Marlins game. I'm thinking the simple situation here is Diamondbacks are hot. Marlins can see a lot of runs. There's a total that sits a little low in my book. And if Munoz is on the mound, you're talking about a guy who's still looking for his first win and has never seen the Diamondbacks before. So anything of value in this matchup that can get you back in the winning column.
So I actually do believe that if a team is seeing a pitcher for the first time, it's advantage pitcher, ever so slightly. Now, the Marlins are still a massively inferior team to the Diamondbacks, which is why the line is what it is. And generally, I support what you said. I would play the Diamondbacks straight. I would put them in a parlay or even consider the run line. But where I would look at Munoz and the Marlins and at least, give them the time of day, if you will, I would consider, and I'm not betting it, I'm just talking this out, I would consider a Marlins first 5 money line play. Not even run line, just money line, and then, you hope worst case avoids it out. Something like that. But I think what you hit on before is really the more astute part, and the same is true in this Rockies game. We have got crap bag pitchers on the mound tonight. You mentioned Montgomery and Munoz, 2 guys with ERAs floating around 6, and I agree with you. A relatively low total. We were just showing the numbers on the screen. This Rockies Nationals game, Parker, who is decent, 4.5 ERA, and somebody named Gordon, who's 0-4 with an ERA of 7, and yet a total in that one of 8. 8? I see it's risen to 8.5. I got it at 8, but honestly, if you're going to bet the 8, over, you need 9 anyway. So 8.5. Really, what's the difference at that point in time? These are 2 games I would absolutely look to the over on.
Yeah, big fan of that. And apparently I'm joining the expertise column because I have Diamondbacks first 5 money line. But anytime I say that is when things just decide to go south. But you mentioned the questionable names on the mound, and probably something to note is that this Tanner Gordon guy doesn't really stay in long. When he did face the Diamondbacks, he was barely in for a full inning, and apparently he's prone to getting pulled early. So that was making me question any under props per se, or maybe anything in terms of like how long he'll be in? Because I've heard you note that before. So I wasn't sure if you had more insight on that or the Guardians versus Yankees game.
Yeah, not necessarily into Tanner Gordon. I think to your point, some of these guys are just on really short leashes. I don't necessarily think that you could look at it a couple different ways with him. It's not like a Crochet where evidently he's not going to throw more than 55 or so pitches. In the case of Gordon last time out against the Diamondbacks, he got roughed up, and like you said, he didn't make it out of the first inning, so the pitch count was really low. And all of his previous starts to that, however, he was generally 5-6 innings, but he's not a guy that's going to, even when he's pitching well, he's not a guy that's going to give you 100 pitches. Usually it looks like they're capping him at about 85 or so. So, I think best case, you're typically thinking 6 innings for Gordon. And honestly, in this particular matchup, I don't think he goes that far. So I'm not sure what his outs line is at, but if it were, say, 15.5, I would consider the under on that. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he was either done early or at a flat 5 at most.
Gotcha. Now, where does one lean with this Guardians-Yankees game? You got the Guardians who had a 9-5 victory, but you still have a Judge and Soto who had a hell of a game and a homer apiece. But I don't think it's as easy as just tracking back to the Guardians. Any plays here?
Well, you mentioned Judge and Soto, and aptly so, because shout out FanDuel. They have a boosted promo, a super home run or whatever they call it promo tonight, boosted to plus 160 for either Soto or Judge to homer. So as long as one of those guys homers, you win the bet. And obviously they have been on fire, Judge more so, but Soto has had some really hot games, and obviously both incredibly capable, as we have seen so frequently, of leaving the yard. But I think where you have to go, and I say this with a little bit of trepidation because I can't think of how many times the Yankees as heavy favorites have burned me this year. But how do you not go to New York with the pitching matchup and just a little point of pride, honestly? The Yankees losing that last game when they absolutely should have won, were massive favorites in that one. I expect the bounce back tonight. I think if George Kurtz were here, who is a Yankee fan, he would tell you, play the Yankees straight, play the Yankees run line, even put the Yankees in a money line parlay with like the Cubs or Royals.
There you go, back to the parlays. But I will do a money line straight for the Yankees in honor of George. Adam, thank you so much for joining us here on SportsGrid TV. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Hello everybody from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyers Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This is his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Niemann for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first. An 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
You are watching Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. I am Kasey Hudson. I have been joined by two guests, so if you missed them, what are you doing? You're supposed to be hanging out right here. We talked to Coach getting into the WNBA slate. We talked to Adam Kaufman about, well, fantasy football nicknames. If you guys have terrible fantasy football nicknames, please write SportsGrid and let us know what they are, because names is what I stumble on every time. It kind of put me off from even wanting to do fantasy football anymore because I couldn't get creative enough. It was so lame. But Sam Laporta Potty is something that's trending for Adam and his kids. So be sure to stick with us on that one. But from WNBA conversation to Adam running us through his MLB card, we have the U.S. Open tennis, not golf, everybody, which is getting ready to be underway here in New York City, or next door in New York City. I don't want to offend anybody and call New York City and New Jersey the same thing. Everybody cool off. But one of the best and biggest tournaments when it comes to the USTA, and for a number of reasons. Now, if you guys were able to catch it earlier in the summer, you saw me talking tennis with Joe Pisapia, and it was one of the most fun coverages that I got a chance to do. Wimbledon, obviously, one of the most honorable matches to be a part of, but this is right there. And Grand Slam tournaments are crucial, which means we got to get into some odds and talk about who might take the cake here in New York City, or there in New York City. Now, heading into the U.S. Open and one of the most important matches, it's no surprise when you see Carlos Alcaraz's name sitting on the top of the odds here, because obviously he had such a dominating performance at Wimbledon. But I have a bone to pick with a couple of people, and I can be backed up by Joe here. After Alcaraz beat Djokovic out of the Wimbledon final, the conversation around that was the fact that Joker was done in. He shouldn't have played coming back from the knee surgery is the angle I was taking there, but a lot of people were asking me if I thought it was a pivot of the old guard to the new guard, and I highly stand by the fact that I said no, because Joker and Alcaraz re-found each other in the Olympics for a gold medal matchup, and guess what? It was Joker that took the W in that one, and Alcaraz, who showed us a lot more emotion and disappointment than we have been normed to seeing him show. He's the guy that always has a smile on his face, right? Well, all of that aside, we have to take into consideration the Olympic fatigue. Heading to Montreal wasn't the best display for Joker, and then you see Alcaraz, who didn't put on a great show in Cincinnati. But now we move to the hard courts, which you're going to see a different element of play. This is where the power hitters, or the powerhouses, I prefer to say, come into play. And Alcaraz sitting at the top here, it makes sense because of how he has performed throughout the year, how it doesn't matter whether it's clay courts, hard courts, or grass courts, he has been top of his game, but I'm not really rolling with him being at the top of the odds here. A couple of things to take into consideration is that hard court, while he has won on it, he hasn't done well on hard court in the last 5 months after pulling off a win versus Musetti. Again, 5 months ago. 5 months ago in tennis is decades ago sometimes. Then you've got Joker, who's got a point to prove, and he won last year beating Medvedev, who's another guy who could be top of the ringer here. So I'm not looking at Alcaraz for the top of this conversation. I'm probably going to work a little lower down the map here. But before we get down to the guys that I think you should keep an eye on, maybe sprinkle some money on when it comes to the odds and futures gearing up towards the U.S. Open, let's talk about Joker for a second, because I mentioned that he won it last year beating out Medvedev. But if Ben Shelton came in a little quicker in that 3 set, we may have not been talking about Joker in a final. Joker is still one of the top guys when it comes to the hard court performance. You're talking about one of the top tennis players in the world who has 71 hard court titles, sitting up there with Federer. You can't beat that kind of company or space when it comes to these conversations. I did mention the Olympic fatigue, but that happened over at Montreal, and then he was able to pull off an outstanding performance when it came to Cincinnati and collect some trophies. So I can see why Joker sits where he is. Probably worth putting a little sprinkle on the value there, but he's still not my top guy to keep an eye on. Then, when you go outside of the heavy-hitting names in competition, you've got Holger Rune sitting at plus 3,800. This one's kind of throwing me for a loop a little bit. Some of the names that he's sitting ahead, I wouldn't put him there whatsoever. Yes, has he been competitive this year? Absolutely. He's sitting at a 66.7% win total in the season, which shows you how much his game has escalated And he's getting kudos from guys like Joker and top 5 players that he's either kept on their heels or beat in other competitions. He's worthy of this conversation, but not sitting this high up on hard courts. When I look at Rune, I'm looking at a guy who performs extremely well on clay courts. So I wouldn't have put him ahead of a number of American players in the tennis conversation, which is where we're basically pivoting with this, because it's the Americans that I think you need to keep an eye on. First and foremost, let's look at what the Americans did in the Wimbledon tournament. They were keeping most of their opponents on the rope. They had a number of injuries that they had to overcome, but regardless, the compete that they brought, you would have thought that we were going to see an American in the final. But that's fine. Wimbledon's one of the hardest things, and grass, is not everybody's forte. But you look at the results of last year and the year before. Ben Shelton is tremendous on hard court because he's powerful, and you've got a guy who's serving up as a lefty. That really throws you for a whirl. He not only serves extremely fast, but he returns even faster. And I mentioned that he kept Joker on the ropes. He didn't really show up in those first 2 sets, try to make a late comeback in that 3rd set, but he's somebody who I think can sneak back into the conversation and worth a sprinkle on the odds. Taylor Fritz, he's been tremendous for the Americans. He's been tremendous as a whole, sitting top 15 in the USTA conversation. And again, a guy who's kind of been in the mix. He's had some really good showings at the US Open previously before, but kind of get knocked out by kind of that mental game that comes into the US Open. But it's going to be Francis Tiafoe that I want to look even closer at. He got knocked out by Ben Shelton last year, but again, a guy who shows up, who's very powerful on hard courts, who's always been in the mix, probably has star power backing him in the U.S. Open in this upcoming tournament. So I think the Americans are worth a closer look. Ben Shelton, Big Foe, and then Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul has always kind of been noted in the mix there, got really close to the qualifiers last year, and then knocked out by just a smidge. But he's a guy that pushes those top players to those extra sets. So when you're looking at the U.S. Open odds and lines, do not discount the Americans. Don't jump straight at Alcaraz or Joker. And hopefully we'll get to break this down a little bit more coming up this Friday. But we've got WNBA, MLB, and so much more. So go nowhere. Stay with us here on SportsGrid TV. We'll be back after this quick break.
Hello everybody from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyer's Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This was his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Niemann for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first, an 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Back at it here on SportsGrid TV with Game Time Decisions. I'm Kasey Hudson running you through this 6 to 8 slate. And before we get into some of the headlines and news that went down today from Broncos training camp, we do have to update you on the MLB slate, which is very quick and easy because the Diamondbacks are up on the Marlins 1-0 thanks to Corbin Carroll picking up a hit. So look at how quick and easy that was. Other than that, Twins Padres sitting 0-0 bottom of the first inning. Rockies Nationals 0-0 sitting bottom of the first inning. And if we've learned anything here on SportsGrid, in a matter of 2.7 seconds, these scores can change. So we will make sure that we keep you posted on what's going on with the MLB slate. But tracking back to Colorado, tracking back to Broncos training camp, it has been officially named that Bo Nix is going to be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Are any of us surprised? Not so much, but there's still a lot to be congratulated here when it comes to Bo Nix. We've seen quality preseason games out of him, and I think that was the initial head turner that let us all know this is probably going to be their guy. It was this past weekend with Adam Kaufman that we were talking through the NFL games and week ones and futures, and when we kind of talked about the Broncos, we were talking about the fact that Sean Payton's the kind of guy who he's going to want to have full development of his quarterback, and when he has that opportunity, he can be a lot more successful. And Bo Nix is somebody that was not only able to be extremely coachable coming in, but had the skill set worth developing. And then per Sean Payton, he was saying that his maturity level gave him an edge in this quarterback room and group. And when you've got a mature guy who's very selfless, he can help you rebuild a team. Also, it was probably a very obvious thing when we saw Bo Nix taking majority of the QB1 snaps, especially in the joint practice coming up, or the joint practice has been taking place with the Packers. And he said that, you know, he's excited to have this opportunity, obviously, but he still feels like the compete has been high and that he has been pushed by Stidham as well as Wilson. I think it was just a clear and obvious choice that Bo Nix would get that QB1 slot. Now, I can't wait for us to get to our next guest to dive in a little bit deeper, but I will set the stage with this. The Broncos are predicted to maybe have more or less than 5.5 wins. And obviously, when you're a rebuild team, the expectation is going to be set quite low. This team was also probably one of the worst run-stop defenses last year, so a lot of teams figured, get our running back on the ground and run him over and rack up points, move on with our day. That might not be the case. Not on the defensive side of the ball, but on an offensive side of the ball that could potentially produce a little bit more. So now with Bo Nix getting that QB1 tap, would this potentially change his value when it comes to the offensive rookie conversation or odds? Right now he's sitting at plus 1,300 in fourth place to be able to collect that trophy. So of course he's behind Marvin Harrison, Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels. Seeing as how Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels were already predicted and projected to be the QB1 of their franchise, I think that's what put them up so high. Marvin Harrison's workload should be pretty high up there, obviously, as well, but could this potentially help him jump ahead, maybe get to third place and have better value now that we know 100% that he was going to be the leader of this Denver Broncos team? So it's something to keep in mind as we get closer to the NFL season. But what did we see out of Bo Nix that made this very obvious outside of the snaps, outside of the maturity, outside of the fact that Peyton's going to want to build his team around a young guy who has his head on his shoulders? We saw a guy who translated college to NFL a little bit quicker than anticipated. He moved a lot faster in the pocket than I thought we were going to see him do. He also had a better and faster release on the ball than I thought he would get to just working through NFL basic training camp. So these level of skill sets that he has adjusted very quickly out the gate obviously makes it very helpful and hopeful for Broncos fans everywhere that Bo Nix can deliver, I don't know, maybe over 5.5 wins. That's the hope. But we have someone who's going to kind of let us know why he already thought that the Broncos were disrespected with that 5.5 total and why they probably deserved a lot more respect on their name. But as always, we want to hear from you all. Does this up the ante and the value for Bo Nix in the offensive rookie topic and odds? And do we think that he can help pull his team through? I think the Broncos were 8-9 last year. They had some surprising upsets. So that was the other reason why I thought this 5.5 total was obnoxiously low. They lost some pieces in their defense, a defense that was already performing very poorly, but we will see if that's going to make that much of a difference, because we did see a little bit of depth. And when you're in rebuild mode, anything can happen. So on the other side of the break, we dive deeper into the Broncos, Bo Nix getting that QB1 tap, and so much more. So stay with us here on SportsGrid TV.
Hello, everybody, from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyers, Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5, 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This was his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Neiman for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first, an 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. And we were talking about the fact that Bo Nix gets a tap to be QB1, but we're going to bring in an even more important opinion when it comes to the Broncos. I almost wanted to say knighting their quarterback, but Bo Nix gets the tap. We got Mark Zeno in here to give us not only his opinion, but his MLB card a little bit later on. Mark, how are you? And what'd you think of Nix getting that tap?
Okay, it's good to be with you. I'm not surprised. I mean, listen, I've said forever, if you draft a first-round quarterback, you just play him. Figure out what you have and what you don't have. I mean, there's no point to expending first-round draft capital to put a guy on the bench. Sure, we've seen it work before, but different times, different eras, and I'm still not sure why the Falcons drafted Michael Penix to watch him ride the bench. But again, whole different conversation. So Bo Nix getting this job doesn't surprise me. He's played well in the preseason. I always say, even though preseason doesn't count, it's better to play good than it is to play bad. Bo Nix has played good. And this is a Broncos team that I think is really being undervalued this year at 5.5 wins. I mean, if you look at their schedule, you're talking about them playing the NFC South. So between the Saints, the Panthers, and the Buccaneers, there's probably 2 wins in those 3 games alone. If they can steal 2 division wins, which, again, playing the Raiders twice and then having to steal 1 from the Chiefs, which they did last year, or 1 from the Chargers, you get 2 division wins right there. Then you have some other combination of being able to beat the Steelers or the Seahawks. Oh, by the way, you get the Indianapolis Colts in Week 15 in the snow in December with a dome team and essentially a rookie quarterback. That's a heavy spot where Denver would be a favorite. And they get the Chiefs the final week of the season in Week 18, where the Chiefs may not even need that game and would be resting starters, and Denver would not be. So there's an opportunity here for this team to get to 6 or 7 wins. If it was 6.5, I probably wouldn't bet it. But at 5.5, for a team that last year won 8 games with pretty mediocre quarterback play, I'm not sure that Bo Nix has to be anything all that incredibly special. He just can't be terrible. As long as he's not terrible, they can win 6 or 7 games this year. I think the Broncos at 5.5, probably a little bit undervalued.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that actually, because I'm thinking that shouldn't there be a little bit more of a cushion within this 5.5 win total when you think about who is orchestrating this team? I mean, one of the best football minds out there, and he doesn't pick his quarterback lightly, for one. For two, you mentioned kind of the matchups, especially when it comes to the NFC South, for instance. I don't know where the Bucs are going to lie in their run-stop defense, but I know most of those other teams, they're not really quick reactionary-wise when it comes to stopping the run, and we saw Bo Nix use his legs. So this is a guy who can, in a split decision, decide he's going to take off with the ball. Obviously, you want to keep your rookie safe, but do you think that maybe the holes in the Broncos defense and kind of some movement on the offense in the offense brought this total down to 5.5, and we're not talking enough about the brilliant mind that's going to be winding up this team?
Yeah, to your point, I mean, look, Sean Payton is still the best schemer and play caller in the NFL, with all deference to Andy Reid. Nobody's done it better than Sean Payton for a longer period of time and at a higher success rate. So there is that. I actually have more concern about the Broncos defense than their offense. As you pointed out, there is, some holes in this Broncos defense, particularly up front, that start to get you a little bit concerned. I mean, Denver's going to have to play from a positive game script. This isn't a team that's going to get down 14-3, and a lot of situations are going to be able to come back and be able to win games that way. So if Denver's not leading early, chances are they're not leading late. They're going to have to play from a positive game script and give their rookie quarterback some opportunities to make plays and some room for error. Without that, they're going to struggle. So I think there's a big part of this that relies on Sean Payton believing that as long as he keeps his quarterback in a positive game script where they're not trailing by more than one score, then there should be enough left for this offense to be able to stay competitive and in close games. And really, when you get down to it, the games that are decided by one score come down to 2 or 3 plays, and it's really a question of which team makes more of them.
Absolutely. Now they open up Week 1 versus the Seattle Seahawks. Is there anything positive betting-wise now that we know who the quarterback is for the Broncos? As you said it, as we've all said it, there's no surprise here, but are the Seahawks a beatable team come Week 1?
Yeah, I mean, again, I certainly would take Denver with the points. I don't trust Seattle to be laying that kind of number against, what is a team that, again, last year won as many games as they did. So it's not really, a number that I'd lay more than 3 with Seattle. I do like I like Denver before Bo Nix was named the starting quarterback, just because, again, I believe in Sean Payton and what he's able to do. So this is not a coach, even though he's an offensive guy, that has an ignorance of the other side of the football. He's been doing this too long at too high of a level to not be able to be focused on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, I think this kind of leads to what we all thought as far as Bo Nix being the starter. And Denver, again, I would look at them in Week 1 as a dog.
Really quickly before we get your MLB card for the night, does this up the ante for Bo Nix in the offensive rookie conversation, yes or no?
I mean, look, there's an argument to say he may have the best season out of all of them. I mean, look at all the other rookie quarterbacks. Caleb Williams has a defensive coach. Who else was drafted? J.J. McCarthy is hurt, so he's not going to play. That's right. Jaden Daniels has a defensive coach in Dan Quinn. He's the only guy with an offensive coach that really knows how to develop quarterbacks and has a proven track record of developing quarterbacks. So those other guys are at a disadvantage, and Bo Nix isn't. Michael Penix is not going to play. So, again, he's got a defensive coach too while we're at it. But, all things considered, he may be in the most favorable position of all the rookie quarterbacks to be able to succeed.
I absolutely admire that point out. Something to keep in mind as everyone starts really gauging that rookie offensive conversation. Now, pivoting over to the MLB. I think I caught you either loving the Yankees, somebody on the Yankees roster, or absolutely being annoyed by them. We'll figure it out. We'll dive deeper with this Guardians-Yankees game. Where are you leaning with the value in between this matchup?
I'm never betting Nestor Cortez as a 2-1 favorite. I don't care if he is home. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. You will never get my money, period. It's Nestor freaking Cortez, folks. Wake up. This is not a good starting pitcher. I know his splits at home are much better. His ERA is about 2.5 runs better at home than it is on the road. Still, he's 4-5 at home this year. So what does that tell you? He's not getting a lot of run support. The Yankees aren't a team that's not hitting right now. If you take out the extra innings last night, they've scored less than 3 runs in each of the last 3 games. So, yeah, this is not a team that I want to trust right now to back. I mean, the idea that I'd lay 1.5 with the Yankees right now seems almost crazy. I'd take the 1.5 with the Guardians. That I would do. But again, their starting pitching is a little shaky in this spot here too, as they get who starts today for them? Joey Cantillo, right? Who? Joey Cantillo, really?
Ooh.
I mean, he's only made 2 starts so far this year. Neither one of them been all that impressive. But again, if the Yankees bats wake up, they may have a shot in this thing. But Nestor Cortez is never getting my money at a 2-1 favorite price.
Well, everybody's trying to steer clear of the Yankees right now because we're hearing a lot of disappointment as a whole. Adam Kaufman and I had an issue with the Yankees earlier, and seems like that just continues to be the running theme here. I don't want to say that this Reds-Blue Jays game is as simple as probably Reds on the money line, but do you have anything of value or approach in this one?
I mean, the Reds are the most inconsistent team in all of baseball, so it's hard to figure out as this game just gets underway. Not really sure you want to get behind Yariel Rodriguez with an ERA near 4 and a whip near 1.3. Not good numbers for him, particularly a guy who, has struggled this year a little bit, but he's been a lot better on the road. I mean, I'm sorry, at home, rather. He's been a lot better at home this year. His ERA is 2.5 at home. So if the Reds' bats are out, they're a really tough team to beat. And the Blue Jays' bullpen is bad. So if this thing is tight late, it certainly favors the Reds. I would play the Reds only, but I don't have a ton of confidence in them.
Yeah, I totally understand. What else is on your MLB slate for tonight? Best bets that stand out to you for the matchups?
Brewers first 5 money line here. Basically just fading Kyle Gibson of St. Louis, who has not been good this year. Again, another guy with an ERA higher at home than on the road. His ERA at home this year, 4.73, and opposing hitters are batting over 300 against him. Not a good sign for a team that hits the ball pretty well. Milwaukee is also top 10 in batting average, OPS, and WRC plus on the road against right-handers. So I don't want the bullpens involved. The clear bullpen edge goes to the Cardinals. So we'll get a first 5 here. And then we'll also look at a first 5 money line for the Tampa Bay Rays over the Oakland Athletics tonight. Pitching advantage with Ryan Pepiot on the mound for Tampa Bay.
See, I told you guys, first 5 is getting pretty hot out here. But, Mark, thank you so much for stopping by with the Broncos insight as well as your MLB slate. Stick with us here on SportsGrid TV as we cut to a quick break.
Hello everybody from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyer's Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This was his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Niemann for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first. An 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Back at it with Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV, and I am very excited to continue the WNBA conversation, but with one of my favorite people. It's going to be Kate Constable giving us her insight, analytics, and perspective. Maybe some fun player prop bets, but regardless, I'm so happy to catch up with you, Kate. First of all, how have you been? You laughed at me when I said that it's winter here, but it was 57 degrees, and I'm clearly not well.
Yeah, no, Kasey, 57 degrees is not winter. You just wait. As someone who grew up in Minnesota, that's like shorts and tank top weather. And even here in Chicago now where I live, like 57, especially when the spring rolls around and it's 57 out, people are on rooftops. You just wait. That is absolutely nothing. But I'm glad to hear you're liking the East Coast.
Oh my God. Rooftops. Yes, I'll be up there in full-blown sweats and boots. People already thought I was whacked this morning when I was in the full get up to walk my dog. But we'll start with the fact that I should have known that the Minnesota gal wouldn't be phased, but we do have a Minnesota team that seems to be unfazed. The Lynx going against the Aces. Clearly, they look to be the top team or most consistent team in this matchup, and they average about 1.5 points more on the road. But a lot of people are saying not to discount the Aces. What are you seeing in this matchup?
Yeah, the Aces coming off this Olympic break have started a little slow. I feel like they're kind of feeling the effects of having 6 players on different Olympic rosters from the U.S. and other countries. They just lost to the Liberty in their first game back, and that's not, I mean, the Liberty are a really good team, but it's not often that the Aces lose by double digits on their home floor. They bounced back with the big win over the Sparks. Isn't really saying a whole lot because the Sparks are pretty terrible this year. Meanwhile, Minnesota, they're 2-0 since the break. They had a couple players, Nafisa Collier, who played on the Olympic team, their head coach, Cheryl Reeves. So they've done pretty good out of this break. They beat Washington in a home and away series. So those 2 wins, both coming over the Mystics. Again, I mean, that doesn't really say a whole lot either because the Mystics and Sparks are the 2 bottom teams in the league. So not telling us a whole lot, but Minnesota did win both of those games by double figures. I'm actually going to take the points with them today. This line's been moving against me. It opened at Aces -6. It's all the way up to Aces 7.5 at some places, but I'm going to grab those points with the Minnesota Lynx. Right now, Minnesota's second in net rating, both since the All-Star break and for the full season, while the Aces, they're just 5th in that same category. Minnesota also plays at the 11th slowest pace out of 12 WNBA teams, just to keep that in mind or in perspective, which is significantly slower than Las Vegas, who plays at the 5th slowest pace. So if Minnesota can dictate the pace, I think they can keep this one close and cover that 7.5.
I love that you mentioned the pace because for a second, you kind of look at 2 teams that produce pretty well, and then you probably think, where should I navigate the 167 total? Or at least last I checked, it was sitting at 167. Is this a clear over or under situation?
I think this number is kind of right where it should be. It's gone up a little bit throughout this afternoon. I believe it was 166 when it opened. I would actually play the under because I do expect Minnesota to try and slow this game down a little bit. And while the Aces have one of the best offenses in the league, both of these teams are really good on the defensive end. So I think you're going to get a strong defensive effort tonight. And again, that pace is going to, if things play out how I think they are, going to lead themselves to a lower scoring, slower paced game. So I look towards that under here.
Yeah, that's where I was leaning as well because of how well the defenses could potentially step up here. You mentioned Collier. We've seen that she hasn't seemed to slow down one bit. I don't think fatigue has sat on her shoulders, but there's 2 props that have sat at the top of the charts, and it's either her at 20-plus points or to record a double-double. Would you go either or here?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think going up against A'ja Wilson tonight, I would probably stick with her, maybe having a double-double because I don't expect her to have like a crazy scoring output tonight, getting to that 20-point mark, but I think she could get 10 rebounds, maybe 14, 16 points, somewhere in that category. So Nafisa Collier, I would take the double-double. But Kasey, my favorite prop in tonight's game is A'ja Wilson, who I just mentioned, to go over 11.5 rebounds. She's gone over this mark in 5 of her last 6 games. 20, 18, 17, 14, 11, and 13. So the only game that she's missed over these last 6 games is that 11 rebound mark, which is just losing that by the hook. So against the Lynx this season, she's recorded 15 and 8 boards. And the Lynx, not a great rebounding team. 10th in offensive rebounding percentage, 10th in defensive rebounding percentage. And I mentioned, remember, there's only 12 teams in the league. So that's pretty poor. I think A'ja Wilson's going to have a big night. So my favorite prop in this one is for her to go over 11.5 rebounds.
I love that one. And I love that you set it up so perfectly to talk about rebounds and teams that are probably better at rebounding, because you've got the Dream, who Coach was on earlier. I think we can maybe refer to them as the Dream Team. They seem to have all the momentum right now. They've been great when it comes to being underdogs and producing upsets. And then you've got them going versus the Mercury team. Does well, kind of holding off their opponent a little bit, but maybe not as well. Coach is leaning with the Dream Team to continue dreaming. I want to see where you stand in this one. Are the underdogs continue to be a worthy conversation or not?
Kasey, the East Coast winter weather, as you like to say, has gotten to your head a little bit. They are not the Dream Team, but I like where you're going with the play on words here. I am actually going to play the Dream tonight. I think they've been rolling since the break. They've won their last two, beat the Storm and the Sun, who are top teams in the league. It's a small sample size, but Atlanta ranks 4th in net rating over that span, and in defensive rating as well. I think the Mercury, they've been fine out of the break, but outside of Kalia Copper, I don't know if they're going to have a whole lot of success tonight, because Brittany Griner is going to be going up against Tina Charles, who's a really good defender. So I lean towards the Dream with the points. That would be my play on the side there. And then Kalia Copper over 22.5 points. She is someone for Phoenix that I'm going to look to. She's had 29, 32 and 7 since the All-Star break, and earlier this season put up 38 against Atlanta, shot 55% from the field. So I think she is going to have a big night. Kalia Copper over 22.5 and the Dream plus the points.
I love both of those, and the winter is getting to me. I'm telling you, if anybody would have saw me this morning when I saw it was 57 degrees in New Jersey, I was shooketh. So you could convince me that either team's going to win, because until I'm sitting in warmth, I can't have a real conversation with you. But Kate, I was so excited to chat with you. Thank you so much. And guys, follow Kate Constable over at Kate Constable. It's very simple. And while she's brilliant with the WNBA, she's actually brilliant in everything else. College football, NFL, you name it. So go give her a follow and be sure to stay tuned with her analysis and best bets. We got more action on the other side of this quick break. So go nowhere. Stay with us here at Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV.
Hello, everybody, from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyers Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5, 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This is his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK. And he's also hunting down Wako Niemann for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first. An 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. And I hope you guys have been enjoying, the first almost hour and a half as much as I have, because we talked to Coach James Young about the WNBA. We just had Kate Constable on to add value to that conversation. Talked with Adam Kaufman about his parlay hangovers and his best bets. And then we had Mark Zeno drop his MLB slate for the night and break down some Broncos talk with us as Bo Nix gets that tap for QB1. So it's been an exciting show here on Game Time Decisions, and the excitement continues to roll because as we talk about Bo Nix, as we talk about a lot of the rookies in the league and where they'll kind of measure up and measure out throughout the rest of the season, I think that brings us back to the college football conversation, because that's when we see if college translated to the NFL and how well these guys will branch from there. And something comes to mind when we talk about Bo Nix, because Bo Nix was at a university that has another quarterback that should be equally as successful and is in the Heisman odds and conversation. Yep, it's going to be Oregon and the system that Oregon has and how well they are producing and shaping up their quarterbacks within their system. Now, a lot of people thought Bo Nix probably should have been more of a Heisman topic last year, but Bo Nix is going to make his stamp and statement in the NFL, not only this upcoming season, but I'm sure for years to come, as well as developed appropriately. But when we look at these Heisman odds and we look at one of the top guys, you're talking about Oregon's Dylan Gabriel. Now, he's sitting at plus 550 odds, and I kind of alluded to it. Oregon's system is really shaped to help out these quarterbacks not only air out the ball, but be successful, utilize their weapons, make those rapid decisions. We saw that translate in Bo Nix's game into the preseason. What happens at NFL pace will be determined. But Dylan Gabriel is sitting at the top of this conversation for a number of reasons. He appears to be a clear guy for this race. But when we had Joe on the other week and we were discussing college football quarterbacks and who could probably sneak into the mix here, it wasn't Dylan Gabriel that was at the top of his poll. And a number of guys that we have consulted and talked about with the Heisman odds do not have Oregon's QB running away with that one. It's kind of a split decision at this point from any conversation that I've had so far. Is it as simple as the main character for Georgia's offense, or does it go a little bit lower there? Does it go over to Texas's quarterback? Does it go over to Ohio State's quarterback? Now, Carson back sitting at plus 800 odds. I think that he is getting a lot of rave and obviously a clear path to the Heisman odds, Heisman value, because you're looking at a team that's sitting number one in the polls. You're looking at the number one team in the nation, and you're looking at the guy who's supposed to be leading that team. You're also looking at someone in the quarterback position that has very, very a simplistic DNA to his game. Clean passes, not much going on when he has to deflect against the pocket. So I feel like Carson Beck is just kind of an easier topic or an easier clear front runner for the Heisman, because he isn't going to have as much to weather in the pocket and in some of those matchups that he'll go through. I'm not knocking the simplicity to his game. I'm just saying I think it's going to be tested a little bit more this year, and we're going to see how well or how consistent those clear-cut passes can come through for Georgia and for Beck to be one of the top Heisman topics. Now, is there players being overlooked? Is there value being overlooked? I think when it comes to Quinn sitting at plus 1,200 or Will Howard sitting at plus 1,400, those are two guys that you don't want to steer too far away from. I've heard a number of reviews in terms of how well everyone thinks that Texas is going to produce in the upcoming season. I can't say that I think that they're going to fall off by any means. I think that they're still going to be in it. I think that they still are going to produce in a number of ways, and I think that that'll put Quinn probably to jump ahead of the number one team. Yes, it's easier to dub Carson Beck because of what Georgia is expected to do, but I think some teams are going to jump ahead of him. And then when it comes to Will Howard at Ohio State, there's not much that has changed at Ohio State and when it comes to the compete. And if he is able to step into that pocket and lead his team to a number of wins, I think that he's a worthy conversation. But I'm going to stick with probably Oregon for right now, because Dylan Gabriel, as I mentioned, is just put in the perfect system and structure to get the job done. And after the lack of conversations around Bo Nix, after the amount of people that feel like it should have leaned in that direction, then that's probably somewhere where you want to look at the value. But jump back to Texas and Ohio State when you're looking to put a sprinkle on odds and values. Now, we've got more MLB on the other side of the break coming up. We talked to Brady Cannon because we've got the BMW Championship, and I got to get his take on some of these guys, especially the previous winner. So go nowhere. Stay with us here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV.
Hello, everybody, from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyers Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5, 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This was his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Niemann for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first, an 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Welcome back to Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV. Kasey Hudson here, rolling with you through the 6 to 8 hours. I almost said hour, but we got to talk some golf, and the best way to talk golf is with Brady Cannon. First of all, I know that you had a couple golf games this past weekend, right? How did they shape out?
I just had one. That was, last Friday. I was down in Southern California, played with a guy that I've been making tee times for here in Las Vegas for many, many years. He took me to his club. We had a great time. I didn't play that great. I started out real well, and they were questioning whether my handicap was legit. But then the lousy part of my game showed up. I did make a putt on the last hole to win some money, though, so that was cool.
There you go. You finished strong, which is most important. Now, we talked to you about a number of tournaments that have taken place over the week, but we're in the Gulf postseason. Memphis, everybody just talked about how hot it was. It should be a little cooler in Colorado, at least in the mornings. And then we're looking at maybe a different amount of, or different top guys to be winning. So looking at this tournament, I think I saw that it's stroke format. Who are your top 5 guys heading into this one?
Yeah, it's the same, stroke play format, and you could be possibly confusing this with this golf course. The last time we saw this course on the PGA Tour, Castle Pines Golf Club in Castle Rock, California, was for a tournament called the International that they played for roughly 20 years between 1986 and 2006, and they played a modified Stableford scoring system, which they do have a tournament now on the tour. They play in Tahoe where you get points for birdies and you get subtracted points for bogeys and all that stuff. But this is a standard No weird scoring system here or what have you. This is what we're normally used to on the PGA Tour. There is no cut, just like last week. Last week you had 70 players in the field at Memphis. This week we're down to the top 50 players in the FedEx Cup points. And again, there will be no cut. So all 50 guys in the field will be playing for all 4 rounds. This is the first time, like I say, that we've been back to Castle Pines in Colorado for a long, long time. And it's also pretty cool to see we're playing at a golf course that's 6,300 feet above sea level. So the golf course, or the golf ball rather, is going to fly. And we've seen some, videos and whatnot on social media of guys driving the golf ball over 400 yards. And that takes adjusting. You've got to figure out, okay, how far is my 7-iron going to go here? You're going to have a lot of approach shots that are well over 200 yards. The golf course, Kasey, is the longest golf course to ever host an event on the PGA Tour. It's over 8,100 yards. Now, again, you factor in the elevation and it plays more to like a 74, 7,500 yard course, which at a par 72 is a pretty standard, a little long-ish PGA Tour golf course. So if the guys can get that elevation change figured out rather quickly and dial in their distances, I think they're going to be able to score on this course.
That is very interesting, but I would leave it to Colorado and nowhere else to have the elevation issues and additives. But you had really, really good insight in regards to some players that could weather the heat better because of where they played in college or how they got their start. Are there any players that stick out to you that can probably manage the elevation or manage these bigger hits better?
It's a great question, and that's what we've kind of been trying to figure out all week. Who's a horse for this course? There's only 2 guys in this field, Adam Scott and Jason Day, who have played a competitive round of golf at this golf course. 48 out of the 50 guys have never played Castle Pines because they weren't around in 2006. And then you have Wyndham Clark, who is from Colorado. So he's been around this course a few times. And a lot of people have bet him simply based on the fact that he may know the golf course better than most of the rest of the field. I did not go down that road, but I did look at other golf courses that have been in the rotation in the past, played at elevation. Between 2017 and year 2000, they played 4 events at Chapultepec in Mexico. And this was actually at 7,000 feet. And a couple of the guys that I landed on this week had tremendous success at Chapultepec, able to quickly figure out the difference in elevation and how far the ball was going to travel and what have you, and have success with that type of change in a different environment. The other factor is this golf course was designed by Jack Nicklaus. So I looked at other Nicklaus designs and looked for guys that have had success on other Jack Nicklaus designs. So, one designer's traits tend to carry out, from course to course. You're going to have similar characteristics at many different golf courses when the same designer is the common denominator. So I looked at Nicklaus courses, guys that have played well in elevation, and then I took into account certain skill sets that I think will be important this week, primarily total driving. And Kasey, what total driving is, it's a combination, it's a measurement of a combination of driving distance and driving accuracy. Guys that hit it long and straight. And Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, Ludwig Åberg, they're the top 3 on the PGA Tour in that category. I think at this golf course, with how far you can hit the ball, with how far you can hit the ball off the tee, with the elevation change and making those adjustments, I think being able to hit it long and straight will be a massive advantage, at least to begin with, when other guys are still trying to figure everything out. If you can find fairways and get your ball out there with distance, I think you're going to have a leg up on the field.
Definitely names to keep in mind, especially because they do also sit top of the charts in the odds conversation so far. Now, tell me if I'm wrong here, Brady, but I'm thinking that Colin Morikawa, he's been a name that's kind of been tossed around a little bit or kind of in the mix in the last few tournaments, obviously having some drop-offs throughout the tournament, but is he somebody that anyone should probably keep an eye on value-wise? Sitting at plus 1,600, Morikawa has seemed to be somebody who could maybe produce, or is that maybe high hopes when you're looking at a tournament like this?
No, I think Morikawa is basically, I don't think he's ever a bad selection, or certainly hasn't been this season. He's been outstanding this season. I think he's currently 4th in the FedEx Cup points list. So, I mean, that kind of tells you the success he's had this year. He finished 3rd at the Masters. That was really when he showed up this season, when he was right there down the stretch with Scottie Scheffler at Augusta National, and he really hasn't slowed up ever since. He was right there with Scottie at the Memorial. He was right there with Scottie at Colonial. It was kind of like the Colin and Scottie show for a lot of this season, and Scottie's been able to get the best of him repeatedly. I was on Morikawa last week because I thought driving accuracy, where Morikawa really flourishes, I thought that was a big piece of the puzzle last week. He didn't do that well. He seems to have fallen off the boil a little bit, but I'm not going to argue with anybody that wants to go with Morikawa. He's had a tremendous season, and he could show up with his A game at any minute.
Something to keep an eye on. And before we let you go, Matsuyama's not far behind, sitting at plus 1,800. You were on him in the previous tournament. Where do you see him potentially lying with this one?
I don't know if he's as good a fit for this course as he was last week. Yeah, I was thrilled to have him come through for us last week, but I did not land on him this week. I went with Rory McIlroy at 16-1. I think his ability to drive the ball is going to be a big advantage here, along with Ludwig Åberg. Those guys, kind of a similar type of game that they play, long and straight off the tee. I took Åberg at 25-1, and then I went much deeper down the board. I went with a couple of guys in the 40 or 50-1 neighborhood, and I started with Billy Horschel, who's been excellent on Jack Nicklaus courses, and he's been red hot. He's finished top 10 the last 3 weeks in a row. And then finally, Justin Thomas at 52-1, again, has been excellent on Nicklaus designs. And also, I mentioned that tournament down in Mexico, the WGC Mexico that took place a few years back. Justin Thomas was 4 for 4 with 4 top 10 finishes there, including a runner-up. I think he might be a good fit here at Castle Pines in elevation on a Nicklaus design as well. So a 4-pack of outright selections for you this week, Kasey. We'll see if we can get one home.
We love it, outright. Well, stick with us here on SportsGrid TV Briefs. Thank you so much for bringing your golf insight. Go nowhere. We'll be back on the other side of this quick break.
Hello everybody from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyers Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This is his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Niemann for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first. An 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. We've talked to a number of analysts and experts in the betting community, and I am loving the conversations. WNBA, MLB. We'll talk more MLB coming up here. And if you guys missed it, Brady Cannon just gave us 4 outright guys that he has for the BMW Championship, and we will run through that in the final segment here on Game Time Decisions. But before we get into all of that, let's get a quick update on these MLB scores. Now, for the number of things that myself, Adam, and Mark have felt towards the Yankees, right now they are producing. They're sitting on top of the Guardians 2-0. So they're finally coming through. Juan Soto, no surprise here, picks up another home run after I mentioned that he had a home run last night, as well as Aaron Judge. But I think it was Adam that mentioned that special that was going on. So if you got in on the special, congratulations, you made yourself some money. To go further into the MLB conversation, we're going to have Scott Wetzel chatting with us, giving his MLB card of the night. I feel like we've gotten a lot of quality winners on this Wednesday. Continuing through, Twins are up 1-0 versus the Padres, top of the 4th. Let's see who got this moving. And it's Royce Lewis with the 1 RBI, which was the one of 3 player props that I had for the night. So luckily, Lewis came through. And then we've got the Blue Jays 3-0 versus the Reds. So clearly that Reds clean and clear money line was not the way to go. As for the Blue Jays, what's helping out there? Stevenson, Steer, and India that are helping the Blues get well in front. Now, you don't want my opinion on this. You want the expertise of Scott Wetzel and his MLB card of the night. But first, how's it going, Scott? Welcome in. I know you got a long night ahead.
How are you, Case? Good to have you on board here. Yeah, I expected some ugly face like Joe Ranieri, and I got you tonight. Not bad. Very nice. I like the improvement. I do like the improvement here. We're making some upgrades here at SportsGrid. Yeah, I got 3 baseball games, and I got 4 baseball games, a little bit, and then I got a football parlay to get to and a little WNBA action. So I'll throw the baseball at you first, Case. I like the Milwaukee Brewers even at St. Louis. They're not necessarily an underdog technically, but the boys in Vegas' dyslexia clearly kicking in. They got it backwards. Milwaukee's playing great. St. Louis is struggling. They've lost 7 of 8. They're 5-12. Their last 17 games, they're not hitting. They can't win at home. Milwaukee's terrific on the road, 35-28. They've won 8 straight. Get this number, 8 straight, Case, as a road underdog. So they thrive. Not only on the road, but as a road dog, as they, kind of technically are since they're not favorites here. So I like Milwaukee even. Got to grab Kansas City laying a 1.5 against the Angels. Won't lay the big wood. It's kind of funny. I saw Jay Cueto on the mound for the Angels, and I thought, Johnny Cueto's kid is pitching. How about that? It's probably got to be his major league debut. Then I hit the icon, and that's actually Johnny Cueto. You're 4,000 years old, and this guy's still in the league. Did pitch for Kansas City at one time, but I'll take my chances. Royals aren't going to lose 2 or 3 to pathetic L.A. after losing last night. So let me grab Kansas City, which, by the way, is 22-4 their last 26 home games against losing teams. So last night, clearly the anomaly. We're going to grab under 7.5 Tampa Bay and the Oakland A's. You got a pretty good pitching matchup there, and then we're going to grab the under just because Tampa Bay 7-1 under their last 8 road games. Oakland 8-0 under their last 8 home games. Tampa Bay's a strong under team. So is Oakland. 7-8 games respectfully. More unders than overs for both teams. It's been 2-0 under so far this series. No sense fighting that. So let's grab the under 7.5. And then the last one, Case, we're going to go out on a little bit of a limb here. I am going to grab the Seattle Mariners tonight. Don't ask why, but I just am. Logan Gilbert's pretty good pitcher. Jack Flaherty. This is his 4th start with L.A. First one was great. Last 2 have not been, 3 runs in 5-6 innings. Nothing spectacular. So he clearly is beatable. I did look it up. I must say, I was all ready to tell you how Seattle facing Flaherty against the Detroit Tigers faced him many, many times. Actually, they haven't. They've only faced him 1 time in the last 4 years, but that's okay. I'm still going to grab Seattle. They're overdue. You want some goofy numbers? I'll give them to you, Case. Seattle 12-4 their last 16 interleague games against winning teams. 8-2 the last 10 series in which they've lost the first 2 games. So they don't get swept very often. And then the goofy one, the Dodgers, for whatever reason, have lost their last 6 games on Wednesday. So, you know what? Let's a little flyer plus 150 or so on the Seattle Mariners tonight.
See, I knew that they would want to hear your MLB breakdown and slate over what I would give. I mean, the most impressive thing that I've done, which, look, I deserve my flowers, is the RBI prop of the night and then first 5 innings on a few games. But I got to hear this football parlay. We got Adam Kaufman, who's having a bit of a hangover with the parlay department. I'm looking for some good insight when it comes to parlays for the NFL season. Where'd you land with this?
Well, listen, I can't find someone who realistically, with a straight face, can tell me how this is going to hit. You know, this is real dangerous. So FanDuel, anyway, allows you to parlay division winners. So we're going to use Kansas City to win the AFC West. I mean, if it's not Kansas City, who? Maybe the Chargers. But you know what? I think they're going to take a step back in year number 1 with Harbaugh before they really get going. I mean, they're a monster favorite, right? So you don't want to maybe face them straight up. So you parlay them with the San Francisco 49ers to win the NFC West at minus 190. Put them together, and it's actually plus 116 on that 2-leg, if you will, parlay. I mean, could the Rams maybe knock off the Niners and win that division? I just don't think Matthew Stafford's going to be healthy enough, and San Francisco is loaded. So I don't know. I don't know how that parlay is not going to hit, but KC to win the West and then San Fran to win the NFC West case, and it pays plus 116.
I don't hate that. Aside from the bone that I have to pick with the Chiefs, which is my own issue, I do not hate that. And before we let you go, a little under a minute here, what did you have on the WNBA slate?
Yeah, we got 2 games tonight. We'll use one of them. We'll grab the Phoenix Mercury. Laying, well, it was 1.5. It might be up to 3, 2.5, 3. Atlanta, big letdown spot for the Dream. They won their last 2 games against Seattle and Connecticut. They're awful. This is a huge letdown spot. First of 2 back-to-back home games, no less, against Phoenix. So let's grab the Mercury fighting for a playoff spot.
See, some of us going with Dream Team, some of us thinking that the Dream is going to end tonight. Scott, thank you so much for joining me and giving me your rundown slate. Go nowhere. We've got one quick segment on the other side right here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid TV.
Hello, everybody, from Arlo White in the Live Broadcast Studio, and welcome to highlights of another excellent day's golf on Super Saturday in Greenbrier. Now, Live Golf history was made by this man, the high flyers Brendan Steele. This is his second shot at the par 5 17th. In it goes, the first albatross in league history, and it's Brendan Steele who is all smiles. Cam Smith teed off at 18 today. He made a par there, then proceeded to card a 27 over the front 9 holes to briefly take the lead. This was his third at 12. An eagle for Cam there, but he was overall level par through his last 8 holes and his 3 off the lead. Brooks Koepka is seeking a 5th Live Golf title. No other man has more than 3. A pair of 64s for Brooks. He's 12 under par. That was his birdie putt at 18. But today was all about Jon Rahm, who is hunting a second straight win in the Live Golf League after his first victory at the JCB in the UK, and he's also hunting down Wako Niemann for the overall title of Live Golf League champion for 2024. A remarkable round of 62 today for Jon Rahm. That was his second into 17. This is his tee shot at 18. And you wouldn't bet against Jon Rahm going back-to-back and taking a lead into the final regular season event in Chicago in 3 weeks' time, seeking a first prize of $18 million. And he rounded things off superbly with a birdie putt at the first. An 8 under par 62 today. Jon Rahm will take a 2-stroke lead into Championship Sunday. Ripper lead the team comp by 1.
Back at it with the last leg of Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid TV. Kasey Hudson here, and I've had the honor and the enjoyment of chatting with a number of your favorite analysts. We've gone through the MLB slate. We've gone through the WNBA slate. We've talked a little NFL preseason. We've talked Bo Nix. We've gone around with all the sports that you can imagine, U.S. Open, golf, all the things. But before we dive deeper and kind of recap half of these things, let's touch back on these MLB scores and see where the action has definitely gone off and heated up. Of course, that brings us to the Yankees versus Guardians. I guess the thing here is when you don't bet the Yankees, if you've been burned by the Yankees, bet them. Because now they're going against the Guardians 4-2-0. As I mentioned previously, Juan Soto picks up a home run, but it's Aaron Judge that also picked up a home run. So back-to-back nights of just nabbing a homer. And if you got in on that special, you should have really cashed out here because both guys within the special have delivered. Then looking at the other scores in terms of what has picked up around the league, we've got Nationals up 5-0 versus the Rockies. I didn't really have many picks when it came to the Rockies. I know that we were joking about who's going to be on the mound and what his success rate was going to be. Then you got Luis Garcia Jr. with a home run, 3 RBIs to get the Nationals in a hot spot. And the Rockies still looking to get any sort of offense going and lighting up. Twins picking things up, now sitting 8-0, top of the 4th. Twins is a team that I mentioned earlier in the top of the segment here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid. Are they not being talked about enough in a bigger light, in a more successful light? Second in the AL Central, performing and producing when necessary. Yeah, they dropped a game to the Padres, but Padres are not a team that's a lame team to go against, especially when it comes statistically. So who's getting things hot for the Twins? It's going to be Matt Wallner with a home run, 3 RBIs. You also have Willie Castro with an RBI, and then we have Austin Martin with 2 RBIs. You've got Richardson on the mound with 4 strikeouts so far. On the Padres side, you've got Waldron with only 2 strikeouts. And again, offense looking to pick up there for the Padres. But I felt like this was something that was kind of coming after the results of last night. Games underway, Phillies versus the Braves, end of the second inning, and that's sitting at 0-0. Then you got the Brewers versus the Cardinals. Scott just dropped some great stuff for the Brewers matchup with his best bets, but you guys are going to want to stick around because you can get that on top of other MLB late slate picks. But we'll see what gets going because they're sitting bottom of that first at 0-0. As for the late slate to come in the 8:05 and beyond hour, Tigers versus the Angels versus the Royals, Rays versus the Athletics, and Mariners versus the Dodgers. And we heard it once here on the show, but I'll just reiterate it because I'm feeling good about my MLB picks. Tampa Bay Rays for the first 5 innings is probably the one pick of the evening that I have. Now, outside of the MLB slate, we've talked about Bo Nix, we've talked about the Broncos. We do have a few other preseason games just to quickly drop some picks for you guys. One of them being the Dolphins versus the Bucks. I mentioned the memes that are memeing when it comes to McDaniel and his new look down in South Florida. But his new look might translate to a successful preseason closeout because you're looking at a Dolphins team that, according to Coach Todd Bowles, is more aggressive up front. So the Bucks have a challenge ahead, a good challenge because starters will be in at least for the first quarter. Todd Bowles says that he's not sure how long he'll keep them in. He'll know when to bring them out. But I think that every head coach is that ominous when it comes to talking about their starters in the preseason. What he's looking for when it comes to this preseason matchup and going against a more aggressive front when it comes to the Dolphins defense is going to see how well Baker Mayfield coordinates behind his offensive line. We've seen that rookie Graham has been phenomenal, but Robert Hainsey is a guy who had to step in when players got injured on the offensive line. Now they're moving him around. He's not really sure where his spot is going to end up here. So kind of seeing what Mayfield's going to be playing behind is going to be an important thing to keep eyes on. Then you've got what's going to happen in the secondary. A few injuries took place, but you do still have speed in Zion McCollum and Jordan Whitehead, who returned and can step into the box and make things happen. And of course, one of the best guys out there ever. So a couple of things to gear up towards and keep eyes on for the preseason game for the Dolphins versus the Bucks. This is where I went with the under total, but you guys let me know where you're leaning on some of these best bets and odds, and go nowhere because Scott Wetzel and Dave Sherapin have you covered with in-game live primetime with more picks, the late slates, and so much more. So you're not going to want to miss out on in-game live primetime coming up here next. Thank you guys for having me for the 6 to 8 slate, running through all these things. Hopefully we are all as successful as the Yankees this evening and tomorrow. I'll catch you guys another time.